The galaxy had never seen a human move like this. Eric Vale walked through the massive orbital shipyard, his boots clanging softly against the steel catwalks. Around him, aliens of all shapes and sizes scurried in controlled chaos. Ships in various stages of construction floated in the zero-gravity docks, their immense frames glinting under the artificial sunlight. Eric's eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned every detail. To him, every bolt, every wire, every panel was a note in a symphony. And this symphony had a single purpose: the Titan's edge. The humans in the galaxy were known for their ingenuity. They were clever, adaptable, and brave, but they were few in number and often underestimated by the established alien empires. Eric knew this. He had felt it every day since he had arrived on this coalition shipyard. He had heard the whispers from alien engineers. Humans can build small ships, maybe fighters, but never a true warship. That doubt fueled him. He liked the idea of proving them wrong. And now, after 5 years of secret design, late-night calculations, and countless simulations, the warship was ready. The Titan's Edge was more than a vessel. It was a statement. At over 7 kilometers long, it dwarfed the largest alien dreadnoughts. Its hull was coated with an adaptive alloy that could repair itself, reflect energy beams, and even shift color to camouflage in space. Its engines were powered by a new fusion drive, faster than anything the aliens had ever produced. And at its core, Eric had installed something he himself barely understood: a temporal stabilization engine capable of manipulating time, if only for short bursts. Eric paused at the edge of the dock, looking up at the colossal form of the warship. Its lines were sleek despite its size. He ran a hand along the smooth hull, imagining how it would move through space with all the grace of a predator. He smiled. For the first time in years, he felt a surge of pride. "Engineer Vale," a voice called. Eric turned to see Captain Zorath, a towering alien with iridescent scales, striding toward him. Zorath was known throughout the galaxy for his strict discipline and sharp mind. His mandibles clicked as he spoke. "You've done it," Zorath said, eyes narrowing slightly. "But I hope this ship is more than a human fantasy. The Coalition will watch closely during the launch." Eric nodded, hiding the rush of excitement in his chest. "It's ready, Captain. It will not disappoint." Zorath's gaze softened just a little. "If you are correct, it will change the balance of power in this sector. But remember, humans are clever, yes, but also reckless." Eric allowed himself a private chuckle. Reckless? Maybe. Brilliant? Definitely. The launch ceremony was held in the observation hall of the orbital station, overlooking the dock. Alien dignitaries crowded the transparent walls, their eyes widening at the sight of the Titan's Edge. Eric noticed the subtle murmurs. Some scoffed openly. Others looked nervous. A few, rare, stared in awe. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Coalition," Eric began, stepping forward on the platform. "Today, humanity presents not just a ship, but a new vision for defense and exploration. The Titan's Edge represents our belief that size, speed, and ingenuity can coexist. This vessel is capable of withstanding attacks that would destroy ordinary ships, and it can adapt to any environment or threat." A hush fell over the hall. Some aliens exchanged skeptical glances. One elder from the Dralaxian race, whose tentacles twitched with suspicion, muttered, "Humans bold as always." Eric ignored them. This was not the moment for debate. He signaled the crew, and the ship's engines hummed to life. A deep, resonant vibration filled the dock. The Titan's Edge glowed softly as its core activated, the adaptive alloy shimmering like liquid metal. And then, something unexpected happened. The vibrations intensified, spreading through the dock. Tools stopped midair. Workers froze in place. Aliens blinked and found themselves suspended mid-step. Even the holographic displays paused, their light flickering in frozen patterns. Eric moved his hand toward the console and felt no resistance. Time itself seemed to have stopped around him. "Impossible," he whispered. The temporal engine, it was working beyond expectations. Every simulation had predicted short bursts of stabilization, maybe a second or two, but this was a full halt. He stepped off the platform. Around him, alien engineers were frozen mid-task, their faces a mix of shock and curiosity. A Dralaxian child floated in midair, toy spaceship clutched in hand. Eric walked past without difficulty. Every step was surreal. He could reach out and touch objects mid-motion, seeing details he never would have otherwise noticed. It was intoxicating. For the first time, he realized the full scope of human potential. Aliens, for all their technological superiority, had never done this. They had never touched the flow of time itself. And here he was, a single human, moving freely while the galaxy paused. He approached the warship's command deck. Panels flickered as he touched them, responding to his hands as if acknowledging him as the master of this frozen universe. He could reroute power, calibrate shields, even simulate maneuvers. A chessboard of the galaxy lay before him, frozen in endless possibility. Yet even in this triumph, fear crept in. The engine pulsed with energy, sending subtle waves through space. If this continued too long, it could fracture the temporal field, damaging everything in the vicinity. Eric understood the responsibility resting on his shoulders. Humans could build, innovate, and conquer challenges, but this was beyond even his calculations. He took a deep breath. His first instinct was to explore, to test the limits of this frozen reality. And he did. He floated above the docks, observing every detail. Alien ships hung like statues, their designs impossible to fully appreciate in motion. Eric could see the patterns of power conduits, the intricate networks of machinery, and even the small imperfections the aliens prided themselves on hiding. Everything was laid bare, and humanity's engineering mind thrived in this clarity. But as he moved, a subtle realization struck him. Even though the aliens were frozen, they were still aware on some level. He could feel it, like a whisper in the back of his mind. The warship's engine was not just freezing time. It was amplifying human intuition, heightening his senses, but also revealing potential danger. One wrong move could trigger reactions he couldn't predict. Eric returned to the command deck. He knew the coalition would eventually notice something was wrong. Even a pause of a few seconds would seem like an eternity. He needed to make a choice: continue experimenting alone or restore the flow of time before chaos erupted. He decided on a compromise. Using the ship's advanced systems, he created a localized time bubble around the Titan's edge. This would allow the ship and he to remain active while the rest of the galaxy resumed normal flow. Slowly, the dock came back to life. Aliens blinked, dropping tools, and muttered confused questions. Eric stepped forward and addressed them as if nothing had happened. "The ship is operational," he said simply. The aliens stared, unsure how to react. Had it been a trick, a malfunction? Or had humans really done the impossible? Captain Zoreth approached, jaw tight, eyes studying the human engineer. "Vale, explain what just occurred." Eric smiled faintly. "The ship is more than a warship, Captain. It can interact with time itself. But it requires careful handling. That's all I can say for now." Zoreth's eyes narrowed. Humans were bold, yes, but this was reckless. Yet he could not deny one thing: the human had done what no alien had thought possible. As the observation hall emptied and the crew resumed their tasks, Eric looked back at the Titan's edge. Its hull shimmered softly under the station's lights. He placed a hand on it, feeling the hum of energy beneath the surface. A voice whispered in his mind, though he wasn't sure if it was real or just the result of overstimulation. "This is only the beginning, Eric Vale." And he knew it was true. Humanity had just claimed the largest warship ever built, and in doing so, they had paused the galaxy itself. What came next would decide whether humans were merely clever underdogs or a force that would shape the galaxy forever. Eric smiled. Humanity had a long road ahead, but the first step had been taken. And it was magnificent. The galaxy had returned to its normal rhythm, but something had changed. Lieutenant Eric Vale walked along the deck of the Titan's Edge, the hum of the massive engines vibrating under his feet. The aliens had watched him pause time and then bring it back as if it were nothing. Their reactions ranged from awe to fear. Eric could feel it in the subtle glances, the whispered words, the way the coalition commanders now treated him with cautious respect. But respect was not enough. Humanity had only taken the first step. The true test was understanding the full potential of the ship and himself. Eric moved to the command deck's central console. Lights and holograms flickered around him, displaying tactical information about nearby fleets, space stations, and the void beyond. His mind raced. If he could stabilize and control the temporal engine fully, the Titan's Edge would not just be a warship. It would be a force that could anticipate, react, and even outmaneuver fleets before they could act. The first experiment was small. Eric activated a localized time bubble around a single training drone. He watched as it froze mid-spin, then moved it with his hands as if it were a chess piece. The drone's circuits continued to hum, but its sensors were paused. When he released it, it resumed its motion seamlessly. A grin spread across his face. This is only the beginning. Outside the station, alien ships of the Coalition began to take notice. Some vessels sent probes to scan the Titan's Edge. Eric observed the scans and quickly realized something remarkable. The time manipulation didn't just affect physical objects. It interfered with sensors and energy readings. Any hostile fleet would find it almost impossible to target the warship accurately while the engine was active. Humans had effectively created a mobile ghost. Captain Zoreth entered the deck, moving cautiously. "Vale," he said, his mandibles clicking, "your experiments are dangerous. Even the simulations suggested potential instability. I cannot allow reckless manipulation near the fleet." Eric nodded. "I understand, Captain, but these tests are controlled. We're learning what this ship can do and what humanity can do." Zoreth's eyes narrowed. "And what if it fails?" Eric's smile was calm but confident. "Then we fail together, but I don't intend to fail." Over the next several hours, Eric conducted more complex simulations. He froze the motion of a small alien fighter squadron in the dock, then ran strategic scenarios in real time inside the bubble. He calculated maneuvers that would allow a single warship to outflank and disable an entire fleet. Every adjustment, every calculation was impossible for most aliens to follow. Humans, he realized, thrived in chaos, in moments where others were forced to think linearly. By nightfall, Zoreth gathered a small group of coalition engineers to witness the results. The room was tense. Aliens were nervous, unsure how to react. Some whispered warnings to each other, others watched in stunned silence. Eric activated the temporal bubble again, but this time on a larger scale. Several drones, a fighter squadron, and a few shuttlecraft were frozen mid-flight in the observation bay. He moved among them freely, adjusting their positions, testing reaction strategies, and observing how different classes of ships would interact if time stopped. Then came the true demonstration. Eric created a virtual battlefield, a holographic projection spanning the entire command deck. He placed alien fleets on one side and the Titan's Edge on the other. Using the time freeze ability, he ran through the scenario as if he were seeing it unfold in real time. Every attack the alien fleet attempted was countered with preemptive moves. Shields adjusted before beams even fired. Engines reoriented before missiles could lock on. Drones deployed in perfect timing. The coalition engineers were speechless. Their most sophisticated warships, designed over centuries, could not have predicted or reacted to these strategies. One of the alien officers whispered, "This human, he thinks like no other species." Eric knew this was more than technology. It was human ingenuity applied without fear. The aliens had relied on raw power, bureaucracy, and simulations that assumed linear progress. Humans thrived in unpredictability. They adapted. They improvised. And now, with the Titan's edge, they could apply that brilliance to the scale of entire fleets. But the experiments also revealed a danger. The temporal engine, when used on larger scales, began to ripple unpredictably. Small distortions appeared in the holographic projections. Ships stretched for a fraction of a second. Energy beams bent strangely. Drones appeared in two places at once. Eric realized that controlling this power would require focus, patience, and constant adjustment. One miscalculation could destabilize the bubble, potentially affecting the station itself. Still, he pushed forward. The next day, the situation escalated. Coalition intelligence detected unusual energy signatures from the Titan's edge. Rumors began to spread. Some factions feared the human warship. Others saw it as a potential weapon to exploit. Within hours, Eric found himself facing scrutiny and subtle sabotage attempts. An alien engineer had tried to reroute a minor power conduit, and another had attempted to hack the ship's systems. Both failed. The human mind, aided by the temporal engine, anticipated every move. Eric realized something important. Humans did not just build better ships. They could outthink opponents, predict their actions, and turn the unexpected into advantage. While the aliens relied on brute force or slow calculation, humans acted with a combination of creativity and adaptability no algorithm could match. By midweek, the tension in the coalition was palpable. Secret meetings were called. Aliens debated whether humans should be given full operational control of the Titan's edge. Some argued that humans were reckless and dangerous. Others argued that no one could match the ingenuity and bravery humans displayed. Eric ignored the politics. He focused on expanding the ship's capabilities. He experimented with micromanipulation of time during combat scenarios. A single fighter drone could be frozen mid-attack, repositioned, and then released to strike in the perfect instant. Missile barrages could be neutralized before they were even detected. Defensive systems worked faster than any alien sensor could track. Every test reinforced the same truth. Humans were capable of thinking beyond linear limitations. It was during one of these experiments that the first confrontation occurred. A Dralaxian admiral, suspicious of the humans' growing power, attempted a demonstration of force. Several massive alien warships moved toward the Titan's edge, testing its defenses. Eric activated the temporal bubble, pausing the incoming vessels mid-flight. For several moments he floated above them, analyzing their structure, weapons, and formation. He could see weak points no alien engineer would ever admit to. With a few adjustments to his own shields and energy distribution, he allowed the enemy ships to continue, only to find that every attack failed before it reached the warship. The Dralaxians were stunned. Their fleet, considered one of the most advanced in the coalition, had been neutralized without a single shot landing. "Impossible," the admiral muttered, eyes wide. How can one human do this?" Eric replied calmly, almost humbly. "Not one human, Admiral. Humanity learns, adapts, and survives. That is all you need to know." The word spread quickly through the coalition. Humans were no longer the underdogs. They were dangerous, brilliant, and unpredictable. The galaxy had underestimated them for the last time. That night, as the station lights dimmed, Eric stood on the observation deck, looking at the frozen stars beyond. The Titan's edge hummed softly under his hands. He realized that controlling the temporal engine was no longer just a technical challenge. It was a test of human discipline, ingenuity, and courage. And Eric Vale knew that the galaxy was watching. Every decision, every experiment, every display of human skill would shape the perception of humanity forever. If they could master this power, they would not just defend themselves. They could define the future of interstellar civilization. For the first time in history, humans had the chance to move the galaxy on their terms. And Eric, the engineer who dared to claim the largest warship ever built, was leading the charge. Time, he realized, was no longer just a river flowing past them. It was a tool. And humanity had just learned how to wield it. The galaxy had taken notice. News of the Titan's edge and its human engineer had spread like solar wind across the coalition. Aliens whispered in corridors, debated in councils, and questioned everything they thought they knew. Humanity, once seen as clever but minor, was now a force no one could ignore. Yet for Eric Vale, the human engineer at the center of it all, the challenge had only begun. The Titan's edge floated quietly in orbit, its massive hull reflecting the light of a nearby star. From the observation deck, Eric looked out across the void, hands clasped behind his back. The time experiments of the past week had revealed extraordinary capabilities, but also dangers. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and the temporal field could destabilize, destroying the ship, or worse, fracturing the very fabric of nearby space. But Eric did not fear. He thrived on challenges. This was not just a test of technology, it was a test of humanity itself. The day's session began with coalition engineers and military officials aboard the station. Zorath, captain of the coalition fleet, entered with a measured stride. His mandibles clicked softly, a sign of tension. "Vale," Zorath said, "the coalition demands proof, not simulations. Real results. Show us that humans can command the Titan's edge and that it can operate without risk to the fleet." Eric nodded. "Then let's begin." He activated the warship's engines, and the Titan's edge hummed like a living creature. The temporal engine began to glow softly, indicating full readiness. Then, without warning, the ship's hull shimmered, and a localized bubble of slowed time enveloped it. This time, Eric did not pause the fleet outside. Instead, he manipulated time within the bubble in micro-moments, pausing, accelerating, and reversing actions in tiny fractions of a second to test defensive strategies and attack maneuvers. The alien observers gasped. They had never seen such control. Beams of energy flickered across the training drones as they paused mid-flight, corrected their trajectory, and launched again with perfect precision. Missiles curved mid-path to miss simulated obstacles, guided by decisions faster than any alien mind could process. Zorath's eyes widened. The human, he thinks in a way we cannot even perceive. He predicts actions before they occur. "Yes," Eric said calmly, though inside his pulse raced with excitement. "Humans are adaptable. We can see patterns, anticipate outcomes, and respond instantly. The Titan's edge lets us act faster than time itself, but only if we think creatively, not mechanically." The next test involved a real fleet exercise. Several coalition warships positioned themselves for a mock assault on the Titan's edge. Unlike the holographic simulations, these were real vessels, armed and moving according to standard protocols. Eric activated the temporal field. Time around the enemy fleet slowed to a crawl, while he and the Titan's edge moved normally. The warship danced through the battlefield, dodging attacks that would have destroyed any other vessel. Shields adjusted in microseconds. Engines shifted power instantly. Countermeasures deployed before missiles could even lock on. The coalition engineers watched, wide-eyed. Aliens whispered among themselves. Some called it magic, others called it impossible. But Eric knew the truth. It was human brilliance amplified by technology. Humans could improvise, adapt, and solve problems in ways no alien fleet could anticipate. As the exercise continued, Eric pushed the ship further. He split the temporal bubble into smaller zones, each interacting with different parts of the battlefield. One fighter squadron moved faster than time allowed, dodging attacks and striking vulnerable points. Shields reacted instantaneously to enemy energy beams. Tactical drones carried out multi-step maneuvers in what felt like a single heartbeat. For the aliens observing, it was terrifying. Their most sophisticated warships, built over centuries of collaboration and advancement, were outmaneuvered by a single human's decisions. Then, the unexpected happened. The temporal field, stretched across multiple zones, began to flicker. Tiny distortions appeared in the fabric of space, light bent unnaturally, and drones flickered in and out of visibility. Eric realized the field was reaching its limits. If he pushed too far, the bubble could collapse catastrophically. He had a choice: stop now and prove the capability safely, or push a little further to show the full potential of human ingenuity. Eric smiled. Humanity was not content with half measures. He adjusted the field carefully, balancing the energy output with the ship's own calculations. Slowly, the distortion stabilized. The fleet watched in stunned silence as the Titan's Edge continued its flawless maneuvers. Zoreth stepped forward, eyes wide. "Vale, you have done what no alien could achieve. This ship, this human, has changed everything." Eric did not answer. Instead, he turned the ship outward, facing the empty void beyond the Coalition's orbit. He felt the hum of the engines, the pulse of the temporal core, and the infinite possibilities of the galaxy stretching before him. He activated the final demonstration. Using microtemporal adjustments, he orchestrated a complete simulated battle in seconds, what would have taken days in real time. Enemy formations were outflanked. Supply ships were rerouted before they could be intercepted. The smallest drones acted with perfect coordination, striking at weaknesses that no alien engineer would have anticipated. The Coalition fleet was silent. Even the skeptics were forced to acknowledge the truth. Humans were not just clever, they were unstoppable when given the right tools. Zoreth finally spoke, his voice trembling slightly. "Veil your people, they are not the minor players we thought. Humans, they are a force unlike any other. You have proven it today." Eric nodded. "We have always been capable, Captain. We were underestimated because of our size, our numbers, our origins. But that has never stopped humanity from achieving greatness." Across the station, aliens murmured in agreement. The seed of respect, long denied to humans, had taken root. Yet even in triumph, Eric knew the warship and its temporal engine were more than weapons. They were symbols. Symbols of what humans could accomplish when they dared to dream, when they took risks, and when they applied creativity and courage to the impossible. As the day ended, the Titan's Edge powered down its engines, returning the fleet to normal operations. The alien crews disembarked slowly, some still in awe, others silently reconsidering every assumption they had ever held about humans. Alone on the observation deck, Eric stared at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of civilizations older, larger, and more powerful than his own. But the Titan's Edge was proof that humans could change the rules. They could reach heights no one else could imagine. A faint vibration ran through the ship, a reminder of the temporal engine beneath his feet. It whispered of possibilities, of battles yet to come, of horizons beyond even human imagination. Eric placed a hand on the console, feeling the pulse of energy, and whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning. Humanity will not just survive the galaxy, we will shape it." He looked out into the infinite void. Beyond the Coalition fleets, beyond distant stars, the universe awaited, and humans, for the first time in history, were ready to claim their place. The Titan's Edge was no longer just a ship. It was a statement, a declaration of human ingenuity, courage, and daring. The galaxy had paused, and in that frozen moment it had learned the truth. Humanity could not be ignored. Eric Vale, the human engineer, had not just built the largest warship ever. He had built the future. And in doing so, he had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be human.